Today on CityCast Madison. It's here. Our season of music and folk festivals has arrived, which means we get to boogie on down to the best of our own cultural heritage or our neighbors. This weekend is Wisconsin's annual State Polka Fest. Did you know polka is our official dance in Wisconsin? Ain't no two-step. And if you're thinking polka is not exactly your jam, I personally wasn't so sold until we talked with Stacy Harbaugh. She's DJ Shotsky, host of Polka Time on WVMO, Voice of Monona. She just might convince you to yodel along. It's Monday, May 15th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Bianca. It's good to see you.
It is wonderful to see you. And one of my favorite parts about Madison, one of the many things, is the music scene. And you are DJ Shotsky. What's the life of a DJ like in Madison?
Well, I've always wanted to be a vinyl DJ. I think that's been a desire of mine since college. But it wasn't until the COVID crisis that I really had the time and space to just say yes to a lot of things. Yes, I'll buy some turntables. Yes, I will explore my record collection that I had, and I'll, explore some new avenues of enjoying music on records. I wouldn't be a person to say that there was a silver lining to the COVID crisis. It's been a terrible time for us, for our country, but it really did provide a lot of space and time for me to really think about, quote unquote, when this is all over, how are we going to gather again? And how are we going to enjoy music together again? And what do I want to see happen in Madison?
We all deserve our silver linings, even in the darkness. And music, it's absolutely one of those things that really keep us going. Can you give us a picture of some of the spots you've already DJ'd and places in town?
Well, some of the highlights of my time so far in my short little career as being a polka DJ definitely have been big festivals. So I did an Oktoberfest in New Glarus, and New Glarus is just a lovely community that's so close to Madison and that's very committed to traditional Swiss music. So that was a place where I got to play some yodels that were appreciated. I also did Monroe Cheese Days this last year, and it was great to play records under one of the big tents at Cheese Days. That's a festival that only happens every other year. And as a very special treat, one of the event organizers found a 45 copy of the theme song that was recorded, I think back in the 60s, that Monroe Cheese Days has a song. And he got a copy of that, mailed it to me, and I was able to play that both on the air and then also at the event. So that was probably the highlight. But really, my favorite thing is just to play a small neighborhood bar. This last January, it was a very cold night, January 2nd, single-digit temperatures, and there was a new variant of the COVID virus that was just ripping through the community. It was not a great time, but the Packers were playing the Vikings, and the Harmony Bar welcomed me in to play polka music in the commercial breaks during a Green Bay Packer game. And so while we didn't have a huge crowd, the people who were able to come, they danced and we sang The Bears Still Suck, and we had a great time. So that was really, I think have been the highlights so far. There have been many, but those have been great.
I just grabbed my heart. That literally, I wish I could have been there that night. That sounds
hopefully there'll be more. We're going to try to do more of these kinds of things, when it's a little more warm, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. I want to be honest. I don't know that much about polka. And to me, it just it feels a little bit old school, and it's very singular. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. But I'm not sure, it's old school in a way that I'm not sure that I connect with, but I feel like it's also partially maybe an ignorance thing. Can you tell me what the draw is for you to polka specifically?
Oh, I love that question, Bianca. And to be honest, really, I don't know that much about polka either. I just listen for a particular sound that I like. And when I hear it, That's a record I want to keep. And so, I would love to be a musicologist and put on my little PhD glasses and be able to say, well, here are the origins of this, ethnic European music and blah, blah, blah. But I really can't. I just like what I like and I play what I like. So what I can tell you is that there are some big categories of polka music. Some of it sounds very German. Some of it sounds very Polish. There's Slovenian. What I like is a Dutchman style polka. Dutchman style polka is going to be more German. It's going to be more oompah. It's going to be more tubas. It's going to sound a little more marchy or waltzy. Slovenian is more like the jazz of polka. It's something that's got more, it's a little bit more fancy. It's a little more fancy accordion work, but that has a very different sound. But like Frankie Yankovic, everyone knows who Frankie Yankovic is, right? And so he had a very classic Slovenian sound. We're going to get you, we're going to get you hooked up with some Frankie yet too. And then more of a Polish sound, I think almost to me sounds a little like Cajun. It sounds almost like Zydeco. It's faster, it's more frenetic, and it just has a very kind of different sound. And I'm starting to get a little more tuned in to what all of those differences are, because it is hard to describe. You kind of know it when you hear it. So to me, I feel like the German style polka, the Dutchman style, I feel like maybe that might ring true to maybe where my ethnic background comes from. I don't know. I'm Irish and German. My family, comes from those areas. So maybe there's something to that music that sounds familiar to my DNA, or maybe I just like it and it just sounds like beer and bratwurst. I don't know, but when I hear it, I love it.
I do wonder those things myself because I have German and Irish ancestry as well. And then I also have when I heard Zydeco the first time I heard of that, I was like, oh man, that too. Because I also, have African-American family.
You also asked, what's the draw and, why polka? And I think it's because, I didn't grow up really with polka music. I meet a lot of people for whom polka is a very generational music. They grew up listening to polka. Polka music was at their weddings, at their family gatherings, at mass. These traditional community festivals, there were polka bands, or their family members played in polka bands. There's a lot of, my dad played accordion, so I play accordion, these family traditions of this music. And I didn't have any of that. So in the absence of all of that tradition, when I moved to Madison in 2004, for me, the experience was more about coming to a new city and really starting to enjoy the culture and the fun of Madison and of Wisconsin. And so that, to me, it seemed like everywhere I went for this brat festival or this cheese fest or this fall festival or whatever, there was polka music around. And wherever there was a polka band, I was like, drop everything. I have to go see this band. And so I think that there was a connection to a place with this music and the sound. And so from that, it just started to become like, what can I do to help? What can I do to keep this culture going? Like if the hair on my neck, stands up and I just get the goosebumps when I hear this music, there have to be other people who feel that happiness and that energy too. But I'm not a musician, I'm not in a band, I didn't have that polka family, right? So I looked around what can I do to help support this culture? And then, 2020, the answer came in the form of turntables and records and this idea of what I wanted to do in the community.
Is there a Beyonce of polka?
Oh gosh. Well,
who's the hot?
I mean, I have my favorites. I think that, Frankie Yankovic did the most to popularize polka, I believe. Like he had a big record contract. He published a lot of songs.
Where's he from?
I think he's a Cleveland guy.
He's a Midwesterner.
Yeah. And so, he's really, I think, the most famous of the musicians. But for me, I keep looking for the musicians who had the most consistent sound, the sort of like vintage old time Dutchman style sound. And so for me, it's Ray Dorschner and it's Elmer Scheid and it's the Deutschmeisters are my favorite band. These are mostly Minnesota, like they call it the New Ulm style of yeah. Have you ever been to New Ulm, Minnesota?
Oh, it's a location, New Ulm. I just like the word Ulm.
It's a very tiny town, but they make good beer and they made very good polka. I think that there's a Polka Hall of Fame that's there. I'd like to visit sometime soon. But for me, the search is always on to find this particular vintage sound, and it's really thrilling when you find it.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of folks here in Madison can get down with wanting to connect with vintage things and be, connected to the past in many ways, at least from what I've seen. I can just hear all the work that you've put into this and you're building this repertoire. So I want to talk about your polka show on WVMO, Voice of Monona. What can you tell us about it?
Well, I got a wonderful opportunity in the last year to join the WVMO team. There was a long time show. It's still on in some stations around Wisconsin, but for a long time, a man named Rick March has a show called Down Home Dairyland. And Rick has been playing polka on the airwaves for many, many years. He has a long history with Wisconsin polka. He literally wrote the book on polka, a book called Polka in the Heartland. And he kind of got to a point where he sort of wanted to retire and maybe roll back some of his obligations. So when he talked to the folks at WVMO about maybe dialing it down a little bit, that's when the station manager there had heard about me and what I was trying to do. And it was just this really good timing for me to step into Rick's big shoes and take over the polka hour on WVMO. So it has been a marvelous experience to be able to go to the station once a week and be able to record whatever I want. They have great support at the station. It's been lovely to hear from listeners who send me emails with requests, but a lot of stories about polka music and what it means to them and their family. And so that has been just a joy to be able to connect with strangers who have great memories of this music.
I've caught your show in the car, so I'm already about it. And I'm thinking about a newbie. Someone's like, well, I want to get into polka because I've got a couple swing dresses. I'm ready for this moment. For a newbie, like, where should they start? And where might they find polka playing here locally in Madison?
Well, while I love to play records, there's nothing that beats the energy of a live band. And so the best place in Madison, I think, to catch polka is at the Essen House. They have live music pretty much every Friday and Saturday. So you could catch a band or even a solo artist playing an accordion and singing some tunes. So that's a good spot. But also there are some pretty good festivals that happen within a fairly close distance of Madison. So I would stay tuned to what's going on, particularly in New Glarus. Monroe is also a lovely community that supports a lot of polka. They have their Turner Hall downtown, which is a beautiful facility with a big stage, and they have dances on a regular basis. It's a little farther down the road, but it's a good place to go. What's going on in New Glarus right now, I think, is very exciting because there are some young people who have moved to that community who have found affordable housing and a great place to raise their kids. And so they are really getting into Swiss music, Swiss German music, and they're starting community bands and just really leaning into the culture of that traditional Swiss style of music and cheese, and they're just really into it. So
I love it. I mentioned earlier that you're going to be DJing one of my favorite events that happens in Madison called Adult Swim. It's for adults to go have a nice time at the Children's Museum, which is so fun. And your DJ name is DJ Shotsky. And I'm just curious, like, what is a Shotsky?
Well, a Shotsky is basically a ski. So think of a cross-country ski or a downhill ski with some holes drilled in it and little shot glasses dropped into the holes.
Oh, I've
and
seen
the
those.
the idea is that you and your friends get to pick up this ski together as a team. It's a little team lift situation, and everyone gets to drink shot at the same time, but it takes a lot of coordination, communication, making sure that the tall people and the short people are working together and finding equal balance there. But it is a fun way to take libations, particularly in the winter.
Phenomenal. You've been fantastic. Thank you for joining us on CityCast Madison.
Thank you, Bianca. I appreciate it.
That's Stacy Harba, aka DJ Shotsky, host of Polka Time on WVMO Voice of Monona on Sundays at 7 p.m. And this year's Wisconsin State Polka Festival is this weekend, May 19th through the 21st in Richfield. We'll toss a link in our show notes. And here's what else Madison's talking about. More tradition! Polka will not be the only cultural heritage fest happening this weekend. Stoughton will host its annual Setten de Mai Fest all weekend long. May 17th is Norway's Constitution Day, and they hold that event on the weekend closest to that day every year. There'll be music, food, dancing, mead tasting, a canoe race, and of course, a parade. And Madison Irish Fest 2023. That will take place both at Carbon 4 Brewing on Friday, May 19th, and Garver Feed Mill on Sunday, May 21st. That'll feature around a dozen Irish music ensembles, Trinity Academy of Irish Dancers, and brews to drink. This is a ticketed event, and kids 12 and under are free. We'll toss links to both of those festivals in our show notes. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not yodel what you liked about it to a friend? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, yodel on, brother.